great to be back. Hope everyone had a wonderful lunch. For those of you who don't know SAIC, I know you've seen me on stage, but I haven't really talked about what I do. I'm a Chief Marketing Officer at SAIC, which is one of the top government contractors. And before I dive in, I'll give you just a little background. I have been in professional services marketing for about 25, 30 years. Lots of big Fortune 100 companies, B2G, B2B, and returned to B2G just a few months before the new administration took over. So there's been a lot of change. And it's been a really incredible opportunity to build a marketing function from ground up. But just wanted to let you know, so my marketing department is essentially like a Fortune 500. It's essentially a startup in a Fortune 500 company. And so it's been quite an exciting opportunity and an opportunity to start with a blank slate. So when I came about 18 months ago is when I was called upon by Tony Towns-Whitley, who is my fantastic CEO. Those of you who know Microsoft, she used to lead the highly regulated business industries at Microsoft and reported into the CEO directly. And came in and realized, gosh, there's really a gap in marketing. It was primarily a comms shop. So when I interviewed with her, I was sold. I just loved her vision and this opportunity to start with a blank slate. But I also walked in with a mandate that every CMO, particularly in my industry now, knows all too well, and that's do more with less, right? But here's what's made it different for me. I was building the marketing function, as I said, from scratch in a Fortune 500 company. Following a recent corporate leadership change, again, great leader in Tony, in an era of AI, under federal budget constraints, with DOGE looming now with this new administration, and with no luxury to retrofit legacy systems. So when I joined SAIC, the question wasn't how or whether we should embrace AI, it was how fast can we do it to make it a competitive advantage. Rather than simply playing catch up, I told my CEO at the time, I really want to do something different. I've been out of B2G for a while, seen best practices in the commercial space and B2B at the Fortune 100 companies I work for. So brought in some very talented marketers, one who's sitting in this front row over here, to bring in things like customer-centric marketing, which is our form of account-based marketing, deal-based marketing, AI integration into the government contracting space. And so it wasn't, again, just playing catch-up, but really doing something different and unique, which turned out to be very fortuitous because particularly with this administration, it's all about bringing commercial best practices in and commercial tech. So today what I'm going to do is show you how we really, I think, have turned constraints into a catalyst, built an AI-first marketing function from scratch, and one that's now considered really a trailblazer and serving as the company's model for transformation, and why starting from zero might just be your biggest opportunity. So let me start with a confession. I'm not one to just sit around and wait for permission. When I took on this role, literally 2 weeks into the role, I just said to marketing, my MarTech person, I want you to form an AI committee. And it wasn't because the C-suite demanded it, but because I had worked at a Fortune 100 company where I led marketing for AI and digital innovation and saw the power of what that could do, right? For, as you all know too well, and we've been talking about this conference. But our starting point was quite different. Very lean team building from scratch, government contracting budget realities, which I mentioned even before this administration, the need to walk the talk on efficiency, especially with DOGE, right? Our government customers were told efficiency, efficiency. We need to walk that talk as well. We had zero legacy systems to retrofit, and we needed to deliver quick wins to show the impact and value of marketing. Because remember, this was an organization that knew communications, but really hadn't had tried and true marketing. So there's also been a huge change management aspect for me and my team on that front. So one of the first things we did, and I have tremendous folks that I brought in that bring great AI expertise, is form what we call the 30 days of AI approach. And instead of getting caught up in tool evaluation paralysis, which is easy to do, I sit in on a number of CMO peer exchanges, we talk about the latest tools, and that's all well and good, and it's good to share knowledge. But we instead really wanted to look at what, bring in a lot of vendors, demos, training sessions, and also use it as an opportunity to really educate and excite employees. Because again, I had a spectrum of newer folks I brought in that were pretty AI savvy, and then others that were just really hadn't experimented with it before. So it was a very, very big divide when I started. So again, it wasn't really about just choosing tools, it was about educating the team on the art of the possible. And one of the things that was so gratifying, one of the folks that I brought in had worked for a large IT consulting firm, I won't name, Fortune 100, large IT consulting firm, and said, you know, Marni, when I came over to SAIC, my one hesitation was I felt like I was going to lose some of the skills that I gained and get set back, especially when it comes to AI, because this IT firm is like leading the way. And she said, I have learned more here in 1 year than I ever learned there. And that's when I knew we had something really special. So in addition to 30 Days of AI, we came up with, and the AI committee, I can't take full credit for this by any means, came up with a brilliant peer mentoring program called the Battle Buddy system. And we paired those that were more sophisticated with AI, had been using it, with those that might be beginners. No shame in that either, right? We wanted to explore and learn together. And I also was part of that. I still am. I have a battle buddy. So I'm in the trenches working alongside them. And when people see their leader fumbling through AI prompts, it really changes something. Something shifts. It took the fear out. And suddenly everyone's willing to take risks and learn together. And that was so much the beauty of it, I think. So what started out as AI training became something much deeper. Real mentorships and genuine connections. Watching a junior teach a VP on the latest tools, and yet see that VP share knowledge, years of strategic marketing wisdom, is priceless. And that's when you know you've built something that goes way beyond work. The day I told my battle buddy, I'm not sure how to do this. Look, I may be the CMO, but I don't know it all. I think it wasn't about admitting weakness. It was about saying it's okay to not know it all. I think on the panel that I moderated yesterday, Francesca from McDonald's said something that really rang true to me. As a CMO, it's important to know a little bit about everything, but also hire people that know a lot that you don't know. And so that's a great example, right? So saying, look, I need to learn with you guys, and this is all new to many of us. And it really, I think, just made them feel so much more comfortable, so they didn't feel, silly asking questions, they admitted their struggles, and we were all there to help one another. What I really saw was a mindset shift, and what I didn't expect, our team realized that since no one is truly yet an AI expert, and it's evolving so quickly, it's hard to stay on top of it, everyone has an equal opportunity when it comes to AI. It created a level playing field for where prompt engineering mastery really is the differentiator for a marketer. A capability most marketers, quite honestly, lack both internally and in my industry as a whole. So huge opportunity for marketers there. So let me give you a flavor of how we put this mindset to work with one of our SAIC's most major strategic initiatives. As a CMO, I came on board, very antiquated brand, right? So that was one of my first year one project, right? Like, we need to look this day and age. We had a significant work to do around that. I hired a great agency, all that. But I'm also a believer, as many of you, I'm sure, if you go out with a new brand and you haven't done significant research, you're really shooting in the dark. So that was the last thing I wanted to skimp on. But what's so different about this time around versus other major brand efforts that I've done, research efforts, was leveraging AI. Traditional market research can cost hundreds of thousands and take months. But with AI, that really changed everything, where we were able to take that and do that really within weeks. So we worked with our agency partners. We analyzed over 600,000 data points, as you see here, to inform SAIC's brand refresh, and research that would have been impossible and cost prohibitive like a year ago, which is crazy to think how quickly it's moved. So with AI and advanced predictive analytics, we were able to accelerate and drive three things. Secondary analysis, so that was powered by AI and advanced analytics, so that we had intricate understanding of our competitive landscape and key white space opportunities for differentiation. Second, we looked at conversation and customer intelligence. So we did both quantitative as well as certainly a lot of qualitative around that with our current customers. But that was really, to gain faster, deeper insights into customer conversations and customer intelligence. And third, of course, message and narrative development. So through conversation analysis, powered by AI, we were able to inform our messaging and ensure relevance. But it's also important to remember that AI should never replace strategy. It's an enabler, like other tech, right? It's there to amplify smart marketing with better data. And while external constraints have required a more measured approach than I would have liked, quite honestly, for our brand activation, we have still, with this new brand, seen much more employee engagement and an increase in brand relevancy and consideration. So sometimes you have to play the long game while also building your foundation, which has been very much what I've had to do in this role. Beyond the brand refresh, let me give you another concrete example of how we've been able to utilize AI to customize client-facing materials, presentations, proposals, communications, what have you. And really even aligning the tone and voice of each of our account leaders with their specific needs, so much more tailored, right? And while all maintaining brand consistency. So we're creating multiple versions and templates of marketing materials at unprecedented speed. And a point came up on yesterday, I think Chris from Sun Life said, it's not just about volume, but we have such a lean team, we don't have the people to create the volume we need. So focus on quality, yes, but as we know, content feeds the marketing engine, so we need the content. So we're looking at ways we can leverage AI to do that. So what's the future state of AI at SAIC and our marketing function? I believe it's hyper-personalization. While we're not there yet, we have a ways to go. We have a website that needs to be overhauled, and we have certain limitations with our CRM system. I look at large consumer brands, many of you here, and am inspired, quite honestly, with how you're using AI to look at hyper-personalization at scale, and I think B2B is soon to follow, and that's where we're gonna be hopefully headed. But out of all of this, the lesson has really been build your foundation now for tomorrow's capabilities. So I'm continually looking at other industries and what they're doing so that I'm putting that foundation in place now. So let's talk a little bit about enterprise impact. Let me get specific about where AI delivers real value with actual examples from my team that's been recognized at an enterprise level. Content is, I mentioned content's a challenge for us, right? We have very few people to produce it, and we need it. But what's been great is team members have reported, and this is early days for us too, just in the last 6 months, they're reporting 4 to 6 hours a week per individual, and I actually think that's on the low side, to be honest, in terms of saving time on content production. And that's even factoring in the learning curve. So they're using tools like Writer AI to get their first drafts in place, and then they can focus on much more strategic work, which is also much more, not only time, efficiency, but it's also much more empowering for them. That's the work they want to be doing. Creative and visual work. We've talked a lot about this. I'm so blown away with what I'm seeing on the consumer side in terms of, and inspired, quite honestly. But AI is accelerating our creative ideation and internal design process. refining concepts, generating original artwork, for brainstorming, and testing visual directions in minutes rather than weeks. While we remain mindful of IP considerations around external IP-generated imagery, and we are a highly regulated business, so that's something we do have to be extremely careful of, AI has revolutionized how we move creative roadblocks to rapid iteration. This is freeing us from relying solely on generic stock photography. I think something we all are super excited about AI and getting to move away from stock, and during this concept phase. And then custom AI solutions. So one of our top marketers, and I love seeing this energy from my marketing team because they're just kind of doing this on their own, built an executive video producer GPT. And so it's a custom AI assistant with media prompting that delivers consistent, high-quality output while slashing prep and drafting time significantly. There's cross-functional impact. So another marketer on my team created an AI value proposition bot. So this was a real issue when I first came to SAIC. My boss at the time said, we're horrible with value propositions, and we need these for proposals, et cetera. So this is, it's super important, right? And so a deal-based marketer took Tengen, which is our internal AI platform, leveraged it to build this bot that has helped to solve an enterprise challenge. And what's so exciting now, it's been rolled out across the enterprise, and we're even seeing not just our capture teams use it, but our top leaders as well. And so this is really, all of this is helping to make marketing the model for AI transformation across the company. However, what's really exciting is the value we're finding that AI extends far beyond time efficiencies, and we've talked a little bit about this. So the efficiency is kind of the easy one and the one we tend to look to when cost cutting. But what I'm super excited about is the employee empowerment piece. So we at SAIC are employing what I like to call return on employee, ROE, and some of you maybe heard of that before. So it's a complement to traditional ROI. It's not just about cost savings, it's really about unlocking the human potential. So take one example, a marketer that I mentioned earlier who worked on the value prop bot also dialed in from vacation, even though I told him not to, dialed in from vacation for a writer implementation call. I was like, Michael, what are you doing? He said, Marni, this just made my day. He's so excited. And that's the kind of energy and excitement that you want to see, right? The level of excitement engagement it really is truly transforming the organization. AI became our unexpected retention strategy. And I've talked to my CHRO a lot about this because I think there's a lot of fear still. I mean, it's getting better, but fear about AI. But actually flipping it on its head and seeing it as an empowerment tool to retain your talent. And so again, the marketing function is serving as the model to do that then is being rolled out at an enterprise level. When people feel equipped rather than threatened, engagement and loyalty follow, right? And I think we can all relate to that. And 1/3 of our team, I'm really proud to say, and so proud of the entire team, but 1/3 now voluntarily trains colleagues on AI tools and best practices. This organic knowledge sharing that started really transforms employees from passive recipients into active contributors and internal thought leaders. And I should say that's not even just happening in the marketing department. They're being asked to train the BD team or the HR team. And so I love that my little marketing team, they're kind of leading the way. And it's a great opportunity, again, to collaborate cross-functionally and really help lead that transformation. And effective workforce augmentation delivers a triple win. So happier employees, better retention, as I mentioned before, retention strategy, and elevated strategic thinking as people focus on high-value work instead of repetitive tasks. So here's and I do a lot of CMO peer exchanges again, and we talk about the shiny new object everyone wants to hear about, and we all kind of geek out over tools. It's normal, right? But I call it the shiny object syndrome. And I've learned through real experience that again, AI is an enabler, it's technology. So, and because we have limited budget, we've got a lean team, et cetera, we've got to think through what are the 3 greatest challenges where we can use AI to help solve for those. And so we conducted a gap analysis approach and identified 3 critical challenges. And this is for us, obviously, this is gonna differ for every CMO or marketing leader. One is the content challenge, which I mentioned a few times, and I think that is probably for a lot of folks, right? We use, marketing tends to use, in comms uses AI for the content challenge. We had a lean team that needed to scale quality content. Number 2 is the research challenge. I mentioned this with the brand refresh. We don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to go out and gather market intelligence. So leveraging AI has been a huge opportunity and benefit for us there. And last, the process challenge, and I loved the presentation I think Airtable gave yesterday, and many about how to solve for this. We have antiquated workflows as I've scaled this marketing function that need reimagining. So we're always looking at how can we do that better. Sometimes it's literally starting from scratch. Sometimes it's taking process we already have and infusing AI. But there's a lot of reimagining that's needing to happen there. So what does this look like in practice? Our team is now bringing previously outsourced messaging and copywriting work in-house through AI-assisted capabilities, achieving significant cost savings, because before we were going to various or agencies, et cetera. So for more of our just kind of routine work, being able to keep those in-house is a huge cost savings. And then we can really save those vendors that we work with, and it's more gratifying work for them, quite honestly, too, to handle more of the strategic kind of concepting and initiatives. But you can't just acquire AI and expect miracles, and I think you all know that, right? It's like any IT. You must have an infrastructure in place, and so an infrastructure checklist is what we call it. And I'll be honest with you, at SAIC, we are not ready for everything. I mean, we have some major overhauling of our website that needs to happen. We have CRM limitations. Again, me and my team, and I'm looking at Tara, who's in the front row, are often like, oh, there's so much work to do. We have a lot to do. So we're trying to be very strategic in terms of how we employ AI to conquer those most critical challenges, but make sure that we have the infrastructure in place to help support those. But that's also why we started out small on pilot, which I recommend if you're still early in your AI journey to do that, and then build systematically as the team grows and you scale. So the 80-20 rule still applies. I work for an engineering company. I go back to rapid prototyping, 80-20. When I think about this may resonate with some of you, but AI gets you 80% there, right? For the most part, it can. But you still need humans, at least for now. And humans with a baseline understanding of marketing, preferably experience, advanced marketing for strategy, creativity, and that last 20%. Our team discovered that sophisticated prompt engineering techniques are fundamental differentiators that unlock AI's true potential as a productivity force multiplier, and not just basic usage, but transformative productivity gains. Finally, there's a professional development impact that should not be ignored. Team members are applying AI learning to special projects and personal development initiatives. And my favorite one, because I pulse my team about this, like, hey, I'm talking to an AI, send me some of your testimonials, things you've learned. And one woman said, I'm even using it for my fantasy football league. So it's kind of cool to see that excitement, right? And they're using it in their personal lives as well, which is great. But I think what I'm most excited about is that we've transformed from intimidation to empowerment in approaching AI-assisted work. And that, to me, is career future-proofing at its best. I've always said that necessity is the mother of invention, and Doge taught us that constraints breed creativity. So I call this the constraint advantage, right? I'm trying to see this, as you can tell, in a positive light. Again, in innovation. So our reality, again, we had budget limits, forced us to choose tools with enterprise impact, not just marketing, but true enterprise impact. A lean team required AI augmentation from day one. We didn't have the luxury of lengthy pilots, but things that we could kind of implement from day one. Federal requirements, and those of you who work in highly regulated industries know what I'm talking about here. We have like the firewall, we have to work very closely with our CIO and CISO to understand what, FedRAMP, for those of you who know the federal space, to understand what technologies we can bring in-house. So that does have some limitations for sure. And then speed requirements. Again, no luxury of lengthy pilots. And then we touched a little bit on this yesterday, but the CMO, and I think what's changed so much about the CMO role that I'm excited about, because it does give us a seat at the table, is you can no longer operate in a silo. That cross-functional collaboration is key, and I have, with this, collaborated so closely with our CIO, our CISO, our CHRO, and in different ways. And, it's really exciting to see that happen. My relationship has changed, and the cool thing is we're not just like looking at our functions, we're actually looking at how can we change the workforce at SAIC for the better, leveraging AI, and doing that jointly. And when I think about hiring for the future, and this is a really important thing, and I often tell younger folks that I mentor that are in marketing, the smartest thing you can do is AI. Get an AI certification, look at how you can use it, and many of them already do because they live it and breathe it. I think of my kids with this. But, I'm purposely building my team with folks who have AI expertise. And down to where if I have two equally qualified candidates, AI is the tiebreaker. And building, hiring for today's roles, hiring today for roles that don't even exist yet, right? For roles down the road. So constantly looking ahead 5-10 years down the road. What are some of those skill sets, right? And even training for those now. But my biggest surprise during this entire AI journey, it's actually not been the technology, it's really been human. Change management is so critical. And some of the change management challenges can be pretty significant when I mean that, people and processes. So that is something that can absolutely not be ignored. So when you position AI as a growth opportunity rather than a threat, it becomes a retention tool. Our Battle Buddies approach unexpectedly deepened peer relationships and bringing about a supportive learning environment that extends well beyond into professional development. And as we all navigate these uncharted waters, I think it's critical as a leader to take a humble and brave approach. The question is whether AI will transform marketing. It's whether you'll lead the transformation or let it happen to you. And at SAIC, we chose to lead. What will you choose? Thank you. So I think there's a few minutes for questions or thoughts. I'd also love to hear, by the way, from this group of other ways maybe you're looking to increase adoption and get employees excited about AI. Yeah, up here. Oh, Helen's running up with the mic.
Thank you so much. That was really great. My name is Joy Jarrett. What other tools besides Writer did you use? I'm just kind of curious.
No, it's a great question. So we're early days, and again, budget constraints and all that. So right now, GPT for Business, obviously we use Writer. In my past, we've explored, we did 30 days of AI, so Jasper, Writer are kind of comparable. We use from more of a graphics, Midjourney, Dolly, some of the typical ones. I'm looking at Tara to say if there's any others. Those are kind of the big ones that we're starting with, I would say, and we'll continue to grow.
We're still very early stages.
We're still very early stages, yes.
She hasn't made that clear.
Yeah. But no, it's a great question. And so to that point, it's more about the knowing that if I bring on some of the more advanced tools, we're not ready for it. We don't have the infrastructure in place. So starting with those 3 critical challenges, I think that's that starting point, right? And saying, okay, what can we bring on to help solve for that? with the idea. And we work very closely with our CIO and tech shop in terms of that roadmap, what that looks like down the road. Yeah, absolutely. Any other thoughts, questions? Does anyone else have, we call it battle buddies, but kind of the peer mentoring exchanges or incubators within your own companies? Yeah. Great.
Yeah, on your battle buddies, I was in an organization, we called it reverse mentoring. Seeing the juniors helping the seniors is just awesome.
It is, yeah.
It's so empowering. And also post-COVID, it's not something they get a great opportunity to do. Looking back at everything, your process and where you started, what's like the one thing you wish you would have done that you didn't do? Or what's
Great
the one thing
question.
that you did that you would want to do more of sooner?
I think making sure you have that infrastructure in place is so important. I tend to, and I know Tara is probably laughing right here at me, I'm a big ideas person. I'm like, let's go. And she's constantly telling me, slow down, Marni, slow down. I think that infrastructure reality check that I mentioned is probably key. And it kind of gets back to following the shiny new object. Like, take the time up front to really understand those tools that are going to get you where you need to be. Because I think it's easy to just kind of go experiment, and experimenting is good. I'm not saying it isn't. But as you're thinking about it, especially what's going to benefit the enterprise, because I'm not just thinking about marketing, I'm thinking about the entire enterprise. I think understanding what the infrastructure can support, that checklist is really, really important. So I would say that's what I would probably have focused on a little bit more. We are now, but I think earlier on. In terms of something that I think the second part is something that I did that I would want to do more of, is that correct? Yeah, okay. Gosh, I think maybe bringing even the peer mentoring program, which is not just my idea. I have a fabulous AI committee, and even earlier on, because I think we waited a good at least 6-8 months before that. And I think that's something almost immediately you can put in place, right? Just for experimental, even before you have all the tools in place. Just, and then even leveraging, so one of the things I've started to do now that we have the peer buddy system is anytime there's I think we had recently, Feeding America is one of our big corporate sponsorships. And we all had to come up with a name for the marketing function. What's our name gonna be? And I said, I want everyone to work with their AI battle buddy to come up with a name. And of course, we had the most creative names of everyone. So thinking continually, I'm now trying to build it into day-to-day asks of the team. So that's something I will be doing more of, but maybe I could have started even earlier. Yeah. Great. Any other sharings or questions? Yeah, absolutely. We should just keep Helen up here.
Thank you, and I won't ask another question.
She's just gonna stay.
I haven't asked any questions, but it just got me thinking about, we're all going through fall planning for next year, and you mentioned interviewing for AI skills. How are you seeing your pre-trial period, in a way, full enterprise adoption, changing your org's design and structure, and what kinds of roles are you looking at as you're kind of considering AI in
It's a great
this
question.
very different, unknown playbook for marketing that we're all rewriting?
I think it's great. I think there's just huge potential I like to think of it as the augmented worker, right? But I think there's opportunity to reorg, because once you're taking some of those more mundane tasks out, and even quite honestly, some of the writing, right? Leveraging those people for other stretch opportunities. So not necessarily, and we have a lean team to begin with. So it's not for me a matter of letting people go. It's more, how can I augment them, or now that, they can take this off their plate, maybe they can take on a stretch opportunity that they're super passionate about. But I do think there's going to be some realigning and restructuring as a result, but not in a negative way. I'm not talking layoffs, but absolutely, absolutely. I think a lot of, like we talked, this has come up a lot about like program management. A lot of that can be taken over, which is great, right? And even the way, honestly, the way everyone does their job is going to change. So I think it's going to impact like pretty much every role. But there will be some roles that may go away, but leveraging, okay, it may allow them to take on something they had wanted to do, but weren't able to because it was like some of the operation stuff that was just a necessary function before. Does it make sense?